welcome to another lesson in the TI-30XPlus MathPrint student course. In this lesson, we show how to use the calculator to perform binomial distribution calculations. In particular, we will show use of the binomial cdf command. To access the binomial distribution commands, we simply press second and then data, arrow to the right to highlight distributions, and then if we arrow down, we can see that number 5 is binomial CDF. Now it's important for us to understand what's being calculated here. When we use the binomial CDF command, we calculate a cumulative probability at x, given a specified value of n, which is a fixed number of trials, and a fixed probability of success p on each independent trial. And note that p lies between 0 and 1. Our example is the following. If random variable capital X follows a binomial distribution with n equals 7 and p equals 0.4, we want to find, correct to 4 decimal places, the probability that x is less than or equal to 5, which is part A, and part B is find the probability that x is greater than 3. Okay, part A asks us to find the probability that x is less than or equal to 5. So with binomial CDF calculated, we press enter and it takes us to the binomial CDF calculation screen. Notice that we can choose between single or list or all. So for this calculation, we're going to start by choosing single. We press enter. And what we see here is that the number of trials n is 7. The probability of success p is 0.4. Now we want the probability that random variable capital X is less than or equal to 5. So in other words, here we enter 5. Then press enter or down arrow to highlight calc, which is short for calculate. Press enter and we see that the probability that x is less than or equal to 5 is equal to 0.9812, correct to 4 decimal places. We can also view these cumulative probabilities in the form of a list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrow down and then arrow to the right to highlight quit and press enter. Then press data to access the lists. Now what I can do here is I can press data again and then press number 4 to clear all the lists. And what we're going to do now is we're going to populate list 1 with our x values. Our smallest x value is 0 and our largest x value is 7. So what we do is we press data, scroll across to ops, which is short for options, 3 for sequence, and we want to fill list L1, so that looks good. Press enter. And so our expression in x is x. We do indeed want to start at 0. We do want to end at 7, and we do want a step size of 1. And so this is going to create a sequence of values 0, 1, 2, etc. through to 7 and paste them into L1. And that's what we've got there. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our binomial CDF screen. So we press second, data, scroll across to distributions, and then 5 for binomial CDF, enter. Then arrow to the right to highlight lists and press enter. Number of trials n is 7. Probability of success is 0.4. So by pressing enter or arrow down. Now we have our x values already in L1. We want to save these cumulative probabilities to L2. So we press enter or arrow down to highlight calc, which is short for calculate. Press enter. And so it's important for us to understand what this list is saying. So in L2, the probability that x equals 0 is 0.027, etc., etc. This particular probability is the probability that x is less than or equal to 1. This one is the probability that x is less than or equal to 2, etc., etc., until we see the probability that x is less than or equal to 5, correct to 4 decimal places, corresponds to the calculation or the answer we obtained using the single mode of 0.9812. And we could also do the same in all mode. So that's part A done. Now let's look at part B. And part B is a little trickier because part B asks us to find the probability that x is greater than 3. So what we want to do is we press second data, then arrow across to highlight distributions, and then 5 for binomial CDF. And we're going to perform a single calculation this time. We press enter. Number of trials n is 7. Probability of success is 0.4. But now what we need to do is we need to have a good understanding of what the probability that x greater than 3, what that is. So using symmetry, the probability that x is greater than 3 actually equals 1 minus the probability that x is less than or equal to 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out the probability that x is less than or equal to 3 first, and then subtract that answer from 1 to obtain the answer we desire. So what we need to do is we need to change that x value. We need to enter 3 there, then down arrow or enter to highlight calc, which is short for calculate. Press enter. And so the probability that x is less than or equal to 3 is equal to 0.7102. But that's not what we want. We want 1 minus that answer. And so a clever tactic we can employ is we can store that answer as y, for example. So arrow to the right to highlight y. Press enter. Then we're going to quit. We're going to go to the home screen. And we're now going to evaluate or calculate 1 minus y. And to find y, what we do is we press the variable button once and then again, and that pastes y onto the home screen. Press enter. So we've just found 1 minus the probability that x is less than or equal to 3, which is equivalent, of course, to the probability that x is greater than 3. So correct to 4 decimal places, the probability that x is greater than 3 is equal to 0.2898. That's it for this lesson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.